Hello, hi to everyone, and good Rosh Hashanah to everyone. For who doesn't know, Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the year for the Jewish tradition. And couple of words here about the importance of traditions. I found that I respect so much the process as human being have gone to find out the to find out the relationships, the beautifulness in changes and in choices and in significant moments in our lives. And in most old traditions, this is expressed in religion, culture, practices. So, every tradition that goes around at least more 1,000 years, I have respect in any way. And of course, Jewish tradition being mine also, as it belongs also to everyone that comes from a Judaic-based tradition, including Christians and um, and Muslims, for example, and many others, is important. It's important anyway to respect the process of growth that have brought humanity here. So, as at least that's my opinion, but this video and other videos are about my opinions in part, and how I see these topics, whatever topics I'm covering, connected also with Taoist tradition and the practice I practice and I know, because that's what I do and that's my life. So I wish to share with you in this Rosh Hashanah 2020. So I was thinking about there is something in the prayers that are traditionally said in Rosh Hashanah that is repeated many times. They're called the 13 attributes of faith, of no, of the 13 attributes of God, and it's somehow a way to remind us that God is forgiving, and it says a lot. Says God. I don't want to recite all of it, but is merciful, etc., etc. The last one, it's the last part is saying that it remembers the faults. I particularly don't want to use the word sin because it reminds too many things that I don't think they are really what the word sin in Hebrew, the word used for sin in Hebrew in that place means. So let's say our faults for 3 generations, but forgives forever. And these 13 attributes are connected by some kind of tradition that I don't know exactly from. It's a rabbinical tradition, so our masters, but I don't have in this moment a specific source. Look for it and I'll put it down the video. That connects this with other 13 rules of derivation of halakha. What is this? First of all, you find these rules in any prayer book, most of the prayer books at least, at the beginning. And they are logical rules, one of the oldest logical systems in history. With logical systems, I mean, who knows me knows that I also love mathematics. And logical systems, you have some assumptions and some rules. From that assumptions, following the rules, you find other truth, other things that are in the system, in what you can derive logically. These 30 rules of derivation of halakha means how you walk, so how you act. There's actually the Jewish law, are fundamentally and important. They are very nice, and some are very logical, meaning, like, for example, if something is true for all a group of something, obviously is also true for part of this group, no? Like if every humans breathe, every female human breathe, for example, unless it's specified that that particular part goes out as some different rules, like every mammals give birth, except a platypus that give birth to eggs, etc. So anyway, don't want to go too much in that. I wanted to focus on the 13th of these rules, which is beautiful and love it very much. And it says this. It says, if there are two phrases, and two phrases in this case is meant from the Torah, which traditionally is the blueprint for creation, and for not only Torah written, but everything else that people have elaborated on the Torah. This is for Jewish people, this is Torah Lo Bashamayim, so we do the Torah, okay? And it's important because recognize the ability of humans to add and create to something that supposedly is the word of God. So our creation is equivalent somehow to the creation of God. We continue to co-create. And this is a very important point, main point of this discussion. So the 13th rule, again, repeat, it says, if two statements seems to be contradictory, comes a third one that put them together. As a beautiful thing is, which means, what it means. If you find two phrases that seems to be contradictory, and seems to be also like maybe two people fighting about a meaning of something. This rule, this is really a rule, like it says to you, you are obligated, quote unquote, not to decide which one is right and which one is wrong, but to find a new interpretation that puts them together, that makes shalom. Shalom, it's a word in Hebrew for peace, comes from the root Shin Lamed Mem, which also means shelemut, completeness. So from two contradictions, yin-yang, and here we go with the Tao, two opposites, there is something in the middle, and you assume this something in the middle exists, you have to look for it, this something in the middle exists, and you incorporate this into your system. It has exactly the same validity of everything that was before. It's wonderful. It reminds me, being also a mathematician, of the Gödel theorem. The Gödel theorem says that every system, by the way, if you are a mathematician, pardon me please to make it so simple and so general, because the Gödel theorem is really referring to a certain particular system, frame, etc., etc., etc. But the idea is, okay, the idea is this. If you have a system of logic, like I explained before, that is good enough to speak about itself, in this case the Torah itself, now I said before, it speaks about itself, because what we say about the Torah is still part of the Torah. So if you have a system of this of this kind, you cannot not have a system of this kind that doesn't have contradiction. Either you have a contradiction or is complete, but both together no. What does it mean? Allora, either you find something that is contradictory to another, and then you have to decide which one is true and which one is false, in which case you cannot find every truth in that system, everything that can be said. You exclude a branch of a tree, fundamentally. You decide this is true, this is not true, but then you lose part of your thought process, of your, or in the case of Torah, of creation. Or you can have completeness, which means you can say everything that can be said in that system, but you have to accept contradictions. And is important, is very interesting to see that this process is being a mathematical process. It's not just like, okay, as I said to you, like since the philosophical thing. As a mathematical process, like blueprint from this process is much older than Gödel. It comes from, the idea comes from Greek paradox. The Greek paradox is this one. Try to say this phrase is false. If you have only false and true as values, if you say this phrase is false, then it has to be true. But if it's true, it's affirming about itself that is false. So it's like a flipping coin, cannot be on one side or the other, it's continuously flipping. The process, this kind of process in mathematics was used from Cantor to find out that there are infinite infinites, always creating something from like, this cannot be true, then I'll add it to, so I have to have something bigger that contain it. And by Gödel saying that either you don't flip, but then you cannot have all your all that you can think fundamentally, or you continue to flip stuff and you can have everything. All right, so, and this is related to this third rule, because we are much more flexible than mathematics, and we do not use formal languages when we speak. But the 13th rule, sorry, not third rule, 13th rule says that if you have a situation like this, you are halakhically obligated to choose to have contradictions and to choose a vision that includes both, a new interpretation that includes both. And another little reference here is about the work of a person I really appreciate and estimate, which brought this concept in psychology, and the name of this person is Gregory Batson. Check his work, and he did for us, it's from a generation before me at least, and they didn't know about schizophrenia yet, I think, as a chemical process, but he worked also with schizophrenic people, and he taught that there are some people that are more naturally prone, and maybe that's for chemistry, to it's difficult for them to accept contradictions which are all the time in our lives. And he described the schizophrenic personality, which has to decide, we have like one part that choosing one way, one part that choosing another, and they're separated, as someone that is not able to create this third party from the two contradictions. I found this work in a collection of his works, a beautiful book that is called Towards an Ecology of the Mind, which gathers most of the work of Batson. So, having said so, why is this so important? What is related to Taoism? Well, Taoism has something about this, and is yin-yang. From yin-yang, from oneness, from the infinite possibility comes yin-yang, the two opposites, never one or the other. They always, actually Taoism doesn't even suppose that sometimes it happens. It says that it happens all the time, everywhere, okay? And there is a choice. And here we go with the possibility of choice. Halakha, before I say this, how you walk. So you have to choose how you walk, how you act. Your actions are important, okay? And because your actions are important, and we return to a little bit on Rosh Hashanah, because on Rosh Hashanah we read the history of creation, because the world was created in this day, And if you notice, there are the first 2 chapters of the Torah, of the Bible, are 2 stories of creation. Seems to be different, by the way. They're not, but they are 2 different way to see, to manifest. And in one, there is the second one is about the tree of life. And there is something that is pointed out by the Jewish sages, that in the middle, they say, in the middle of the garden was planted the tree of life and the tree of good and evil. Now, you can think, oh, they're planted in the same area, but if you literally look at that, the sages say, how can that possible, that in one place are 2 trees? Hence, the 2 trees are not 2 trees, it's 1 tree. Depends on how you see. If you see only the external, you see the good and bad. If you see the whole tree, you see also the internal part, you have a tree of life. And there is an oral tradition that say we were supposed to choose from the tree of life instead of choose from the tree of good and evil. And this tradition is connected to the phrase that wonderful Adam says when God says, why did you eat this fruit? Oh, no, I wasn't me, my wife, no, the woman you put around me told me to eat, like, no, blame someone else. Blame God, by the way, to make a yin-yang part. And they say, in that moment, that was decided as a sin, fundamentally, not before. All right, so, getting from that, we're also in the cycle of reading the Torah in the Jewish tradition. We are more or less nearby to the end, and nearby to the end there is a beautiful section of the Torah, in Hebrew called parashot, section that you read every week, which again in Hebrew is called Netzavim. And anyway, in these sections, Moshe put people on 2 mountains and is repeating to the second generation of people what they're coming into the land, and he's making blessings and cursings, and he's explaining some words. And there is these things. There is I put in front of you today good and bad. Choose life. It doesn't say choose good and bad. It says choose life. It's again the choosing of the connections of both of them. Another reference to the first day of creation, where God created yin-yang, light, separate from the day, light and darkness. And there is a very, very, very particular phrasing at the end. Now, each day of creation ends like, in translations, day 1, day 2, day 3, etc., etc. But they, first day, second day, actually. In translation, is they say first day, second day, third day, etc., etc. Now, there are words in Hebrew to say first, second, but in the first day, in the first part, it's not used first. It's literally translated from Hebrew. It says, and it was, will be. They go together, the 2 things. Past, present, and future are together there. Evening, and it is morning. The day is 1. It's not as this is the first day, number 1. No, it's an affirmation. Say, the day is 1. Yin yang is one thing. And it has to do with this process of choice, at least in my opinion, and probably in many of the Taoist opinion too. So, when this choice, this choice, first of all, how, a little bit, one moment, again, how do we make choices? Because we think about it, and our brain is a wonderful model, predicting, modeling stuff. We say, like, oh, if I do this, probably it's going to happen this, okay? So, again, if we choose thinking that there is good and bad, we have to choose one direction or the other. If we choose thinking that we can co-create something different, we don't have the same choices. And one, we create something. We don't have no choice, only this or that. We have more than one choice. And this is important in apparently by something that I picked up from a video of Antonio Damasio. Check him too, great person, a neurobiologist. And it says that memories are stored in our brain and in the same place of prediction. Actually, reverse. Predictions are stored as memories. There is an entire part in the praying of Rosh Hashanah, which is beautiful because it reminds us. It's called Zikronot. Zikronot means rememberings. And there are all these phrases from the Torah. Remember you did this, remember you did this, remember you did this. Remember us for life. This is us asking God, the universe, to choose for life, to remember for life. See, choice and remembering here is like the same things. There is also a phrase that says, in a part of the prayer called Amida, and it says only in these times, God that reminds us for life, okay, and that desire life, has a thirst for life. And also in Taoist tradition, remember all the ancestors, remember our flow, and here we get a little bit more in the Taoist alchemy, our flow of people we come from, that have given birth to something that comes from them, is also different from them. This is connected in Taoist tradition with the energy of water, which is also the energy of our bones and of can take any shape. So it really can create newness from waters, which is also the first things that happens in the first day of creation. Ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. There were waters, even if they say create only heaven and earth, all of a sudden there are waters there. Interesting, because that is the flow, the creation, no? And the Spirit of God was hovering above the waters. This reminds me of the inner alchemy of fire and water. Is a particular practice that is called Kan and Li in the tradition of Taoist inner alchemy, as I studied it from Mantak Chia, and is found also in the book Sefer Yetzirah, where there are 3 letters, 3 mothers that forms everything else. That are Shin for fire, Mem for water, and Aleph for the spirit that decides in between them. And the idea, I'm not going to describe the practice now, but the idea of these writings and of definitely of the Kan Li is that the fire, you say the fires, the sign for the things. Allora, in the Sefer Yetzirah it says, the sign for the covenant is the act of love of God towards humanity, is that the fires descend from its place, goes under the water. What happens that when a fire goes under a water, it produces steam, vapor, okay? The fire, the love and kindness, which is fire, energy of the heart, descend, sustaining the energy of all creation, okay, the unform of energy of all possibility and all creation, which is the water, energy of the kidneys in the human body, and create a spirit of life, this vapor, okay, which for choice we have to make it flow all over creation into our body. This is the first part of the practice of the Kan Li, into all the meridians, by the way, and the organs. This is lesser Kan Li practice. All right. So, In all this, we are supposing something very, very, very basic. That what are we perceiving? Now you can say, oh, well, that's how human beings, at the best, that's how human beings are made. We think this way, we have this process of thinking, more or less. Who says that the universe works this way? I don't have proof that the universe works this way, even if there are parallels in quantum mechanics, where as far as I know, to actually prove that the universe works in this way. Prove in this moment I'm using a science frame, okay? Science doesn't say no. It doesn't say yes either, yet, okay? However, the assumption of all this older tradition, Taoist, Christian and Jewish Christian tradition, Buddhist tradition, is that yes, we are an emergent, and here is another science term, process of an internal process of the universe which creates things this way. It's not our imagination, it's we are an expression of this, and because we are an expression, so an holographic, let's say, we can follow the same rules. Okay? It is a beautiful, so the universe has a meaning. In this way though, not a meaning of this is true and this is wrong. A meaning in creation. It's a beautiful piece that I hope I'll put a link here, of an interview, a lesson of Viktor Frankl, which I also a psychologist, Holocaust survivor, a very important person to my life, and he wrote a book that I love, and it's called Man Search for Meanings. And in this book, it says exactly that a man for live well needs a meaning, needs to know that there is a meaning. And it returns to this thing, to what we were saying. It's not the assumption is that the meaning is compassionate, and the compassion is born from the fact that we can actually choose. When they say like, oh, why God gave us ability to choose? Well, for a very good reason, okay? Because we do not live. It's not like, oh, yeah, now I put it there and then they screw up. Nope. Is exactly a part of the process of creation. And this ability of choice is the ability of choose for good. It's not just choose whatever. Choose for good, choose life, which includes opposites. This we can see in another part of the praying, which is called Malkuyot. Malkut means the kingdom, the expression here. And in this we say God is king, like this is the rule, not God somewhere, somehow, some person sitting somewhere that is a king. No, but this meta principle are the things that rules the universe. We affirm that. We also affirm that in a particular way out of time, because there is a phrase repeating many times, which goes Adonai Malach, Adonai Melech, Adonai Imloch, Leolam Vaed, which means God reigned, God reigns, and God will reign, like in all the rule, okay? God rules and will rule. Leolam Vaed, in the word of forever, but Leolam means also in the hidden part, from the root of the word in Hebrew. And Ed is also, fundamentally is not necessary forever. It also can mean testimony. You can look at the world this way. Because you look at it this way, we create something, this new interpretation. Now, the part important here is the copresence, and we're almost at the end of this discussion, sorry if it's long, the copresence of past, present, and future. Because truthfully, if you believe in a God, it doesn't make sense that is no, following the flow of time. In fact, it's not. Neither do most of the universe by physics, because just because we are the slot of creation looks like there is cause and consequence. We derive our sense of time from cause and consequences, which is also part of good and bad modeling. Now, if I do this, I have results that I desire. If I do this, I have results that I do not desire, so I choose here. Now, that is something that in all this, in Taoist tradition, is not so much appreciated, let's say, because you do something, you have an initial outcome, something happened, you have also the beginning of the opposite happening. I say yin yang all together. Okay, and also time is not seen as a sequence of I do this and I get that. By the way, think in your life, how many times during your day you plan to do a list of things that at the end of the day, if you did 50% of it, no, thinks you're lucky, because there are so many things that we do not see, we do not foreseen. All right, so time as a sequence of cause and consequences, which also by science do not work this way at all. And you can write to me and ask me why I'm saying this and that and stuff like that. I have sources and I have some reasoning, but if not, this conversation become like hours. And anyway, time can be seen more as a creation, okay? We create time because we create relationships. Now, if we have a relationship that in our mind goes only from cause to consequence, that's the form of time we create. But it wasn't the only form of relationship that human cultures in general have created. Older human cultures did not have this cause and effect, so cut it down like that. Let's see, for example, languages. No, a language expresses your culture. The three older languages that I'm aware of, ancient Chinese, which doesn't have a sense of time at all, okay? It doesn't have present, past or future. Okay, it doesn't even have a subject, by the way. To refer to someone, to something, you, including yourself, you have to say your name. Because obviously, not having something that do something else, you don't have a subject. Okay, it's not just they didn't know pronouns. So ancient Chinese, Sanskrit, I'm told, has the same things, and Old Hebrew has this form of verbs that you put a letter in front, a vav, that means end, but it also pass a past tense to the future and a future tense to the past. When it's translated, you choose one of the two. When you read it and you think with that mind, it means both. It's something that is continuously happening past and future, or in future and past. So for people to have elaborate these systems of speaking, they were not stupid at all, meaning that they needed this more than a sequence of cause and effect. All right, so in our prayers, and here I'm going to stop, in the prayers of Jewish tradition, there is a blessing that is said before a very important prayer, which is the affirmation that God is one, that everything is one. This blessing is called Borea Meorot, the blessing of the creation of lights, in this case sun and moon, yin, yang. And in this blessing in particular is repeated that God, I said it in Hebrew, Amekadesh bekol yom tamid maaseh bereshit. And it renews in every day, every moment. In every day, bekol yom, in every moment, tamid, always, Maaseh Bereshit, the work of creation. Not the work, Maaseh means the doing of creation. I was speaking before about these three letters, Aleph, Mem, Shin. In the Jewish tradition, which is very similar to Taoist, these three letters are called mothers, fire, water, and the vapor in between them that decides between them, from Sefer Yetzirah. And these three letters, like all the letters, are associated a phrase on the first chapter of the Torah. When God says something, a certain letter is associated to that something. Now, in the first chapter of the Torah, of Genesis, it says only 3 times that God does something. The word is oseh. And these 3 times are the 3 main letters, are associated with the 3 Aleph, Mem, Shin. Why? Because doing is something that you create right in this moment. The rest is God naming, so creating distinctions, and looking at them with good eyes. And God saw that this was good. Another hint that we should do the same, right? So, this is mostly all. And I wanted to point out how much, again, is important this creation of life from choosing not good or bad, but the third point that creates newness, that creates something new, that renews everything and creates something new. The vapor of life, the Aleph, or the steam in between the fire and water. And again, in the Taoist tradition, this is a particular practice that works with, at the basic level, with our meridians, and bring our love below the energy of trust, water, creating literally a new energy in our body that we pass through the meridians, which are our organs, our meridians, which are our connections with what is the same energies in the universe. We pass through the universes, first to the earth level, a shamanic practice that connects with earth, with spirits of plants, animals, etc., 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 and then to the heavenly level, which pass through stars and through wheels, to make everything one. Our decision become the decision of the universe, and that is what Taoists call immortality. Taoist believes that this process is not just in our mind, is a process that really happens. So our bodies become bodies of light and become ones with the universe. The desirability of that is because we accomplish better and better the process of creation. In Jewish tradition, there is the same things, because there are immortals in the Jewish tradition too. The first immortal is Hanok, which means to inaugurate something, by the way, and this immortal, it says, and he walked himself, Veitalech Hanoch ba Elohim, and he walked. The way of Elohim is all the different ways God creates things. It is the name of God used in creation when it separates things. He walked himself. He didn't lose himself in these ways, like, oh, it's all God, do your will. No? There is another passage, maybe ask me if you're interested, in the Torah that saying whatever to God is really not a good thing. Absolutely. God doesn't particularly like that. But walking yourself in these paths brings yourself to immortality. In the Taoists, they say you walk the Tao. The Tao means way. Walk the Tao, become an immortal. What does it mean? Exactly what it just explains in more Western terms. And in again, one last thing I wanted to say, in the Jewish tradition, it says, you will do as God will do. I do so, so you will do. Behukotai telech, telech, you will walk again in my hook. Hook is a firm form of law, which is not the one written in the Torah. Hook comes from carving something. It is a flow. It's like you carve something, the water can go through that flow, and you will walk. You will cooperate. Your will and this will is the same. Okay. And remember, first I said about the meridians in our bodies. This is in the Jewish tradition practice mentioned in a prayer which calls Neshamat Kol Hai, which is said in the high holidays, and that's not said all the time. And there is a part of this prayer that say, even if we could bless you with your hearts, but bless you with your hearts, or we could bless you with our kidneys and all the organs that and the flow is really, so it is similar to this practice, and the flow of these organs, even that is not enough. Yes, because there is not limit to infinity. In the creation stories, and this is the first level of the canon, in the creation stories, it says, let us do the human being. Okay, who's us? First of all, Elohim is similar to a plural. There is a tradition that say us, God called the earth and everything there, every angel, etc., to give a part of them to make the human being. And then he breathed. So we have all these correspondences with the universe. We are made of that. But then what God made on himself, only God, not the rest of creation which he did before, Ruach. A Ruach Elohim is breath into ourself. The Ruach is the Aleph from Sefer Yetzirah, this possibility of choosing for good. So of flowing with this. The Ruach is also this vapor of life is also what is produced in the process of Kanenli into ourselves, and that makes us in the image of God. Again, ask me why I'm saying so. And the third level, the greatest Kanenli, connected with the stars levels, again from Sefer Yetzirah. These are angels, they're called angels. The stars level is the level of angels, which you could translate with the specific energies that connects all the particulars to a bigger plan somehow, a flowing, an harmony together. So we go through all these three levels, both in the practice of Kanenli and in our prayers. Having said so, thank you. If you got to the end of this video, I will try to make it better, to publish it, and with a translation and transliterations actually, and I will also put all kind of links and hopefully sources. But again, this video covers a lot and can and should be gone into the particulars. Shana Tova to everyone.